Come unwrap some holiday magic this season in Denver, where the lights are brighter and the shopping is grander, where the season feels a whole lot more wonderful. Discover great hotels and more things to do at milehighholidays.com.
Thanks for joining me today. It's just absolutely wonderful to have you. And I heard you got an award. Some email came through that some type of an award came through.
Yeah, I believe it or not, I received 2 awards last month, and I've got an award in February from the Gwinnett Chamber, and kind of a humanitarian award.
That's fantastic. I mean, it always feels good to get one of those things, and always
Yeah,
have the pomp and circumstance behind it.
yeah. Somebody notice what you're doing.
It's fantastic. You know, it always takes a little while too for that to really to catch on. So that's always a lot of fun. Very good. So how did this all start for you, getting into revitalization efforts? Now, for those, I mean, we're global on this. You're in Lawrenceville, Georgia, which is what? It's about how many minutes?
It's the county seat of Gwinnett County, about 20 minutes outside of the center of Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
And I am Gwinnett based. Have done a lot of real estate projects here and around Atlanta, and have had a great career there, and also manage community improvement districts, which are set up when a group of property owners come together and agree to pay an extra tax to improve their area. So I set up a couple of them and now manage 2. So that's kind of my day job now. And in last spring, I was wanting to do something to help the Ukrainian people. And I had been to Ukraine in 1998 as part of my goal of visiting every country in the world. And I really liked the Ukrainian people and was really impressed with how they loved their freedom. They were just out from under the Soviet Union, and they didn't want to be stuck back in that communist regime. They liked being independent and valued that tremendously. So I never forgot that. They were invaded in 2014, and not a whole lot of nobody really said anything, and Russia chipped off a couple pieces of Ukraine and got away with it, and obviously thought they could do that again and just take over the whole country, and attempted to begin doing that on February 24th of 2022, last year. And I really became activated with that. I just said, I want to do something more than just pray or talk or write a check and send it to some charity. I want to get involved and help these people. And I don't have any other, at that time, I didn't have any other connection to people in Ukraine or the country of Ukraine other than just wanting to help them. I had sent a couple checks to different charities, and then I literally prayed about it, and I basically said, I want to do something, give me a mission. And that day, the head of FODAC, which stands for Friends of Disabled Adults and Children, the head of that organization, Chris Brand, they're based in Tucker, and I serve on their advisory board, asked if I would be willing to accompany a shipment of medical equipment into Ukraine. I hadn't really planned on going into Ukraine at the time, being under attack from Russia, but I just said yes. I felt like there was a reason that he was asking me, and I felt like it was the right thing to do. So I basically went to Romania in the beginning of June of 2022, a little over 6 months ago, and met with a number of Rotary folks. In fact, just some background on that shipment. There was a Rotarian by the name of Radu Zurnovu in the Buckhead Rotary Club who grew up in Romania. And now lives in the Atlanta area, and his father, Radu Sr., is still in Romania. And his father, in fact, is a physician. The two of them said they wanted to do something. Radu Sr. has medical contacts in Ukraine and had been receiving requests for medical equipment. Radu Sr. and Radu Jr. decided to raise money among the Atlanta area Rotary clubs in March and raised well over $150,000 to buy medical equipment to supply these hospitals that were damaged by the Russian invasion. The Rotary clubs had been working in the past with FODAC. FODAC basically collects medical equipment for people with disabilities and delivers it to people with disabilities. And they deliver to people with disabilities, not just in the metro Atlanta area, but all over the country and now all over the world. And they had a great reputation for getting needed equipment to people in tough situations on a fast, efficient basis. So the Rotary folks asked Chris Brand, also coincidentally a Rotarian, to buy the medical equipment, palletize it, warehouse it, organize it for shipment, and arrange for shipment over to Romania. And then from Romania, it was escorted in. These shipments are escorted into Ukraine across the Romania-Ukrainian border. I went with their second shipment, which left in early June. I left in early June. And while that shipment was on its way on Delta to Munich and then trucked over to Romania, I had flown to Romania, met with a number of Romanian officials about the Ukraine efforts, and then was driven across the border from Romania into Ukraine by two Rotary president women. And I called them my bodyguards. Basically, men were not allowed to leave the country.
Right.
Women could come and go. So they took me into Ukraine, and I, for a couple of days, worked in their operation, distributing food and supplies to refugees. Some background on the refugees.
Yeah.
Ukraine had 41 million people at the beginning of the war, a population of 41 million. Roughly 5 million of those totally left the country of Ukraine. They went to surrounding countries, and over 100,000, in fact, over 130,000 are now actually in the United States. So they left the country of Ukraine. And then another 5,000 or 6,000 Ukrainian folks went from the parts of Ukraine under attack to the safer parts. The part under attack is the east, and the safer part over next to Poland is the west, and then the south to some extent next to Romania. So there were 5 million refugees, and there still are 5 million internal displaced persons in the rest of Ukraine that are being taken care of by all kinds of different charitable organizations, including Rotary. I was there with the Rotarians in Chernovisty, Ukraine, and we were handing out food and all kinds of other supplies. These were mostly women with children. In fact, I was giving out a lot of diapers, and as a grandfather, I really understand the importance of disposable diapers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
We
it was
need those.
Yes, it was just something I never dreamed I'd ever be doing, but there I was, and air raid sirens were going off, and we were serving all of these people, and I really it affected me. And I in my luggage, I had a lot of surgical equipment with me, in addition to what we had shipped over on Delta. We shipped over 37 pallets. I had some very expensive surgical drills with me, worth probably 20 or $30,000 in my luggage. And so after I was working with the Rotary clubs there in Chernobyl, giving out the food and supplies, I took an overnight train north to Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, and went to their main hospital and met with their surgeons and delivered the surgical equipment to the lead surgeon at the main hospital in Kyiv. In fact, I was with 4 or 5 surgeons outside of their operating department, and I think all of us had tears in our eyes. These surgical drills, there are Stryker surgical drills, something I never heard of before, and they are battery operated. They're used throughout the world so that a surgeon doesn't have to have a drill with a wire attached to it as he's working on your leg or your backbone or your elbow. The doctors there were experiencing a lot of shrapnel wounds. I mean, the people they were taking care of were experiencing a lot of shrapnel wounds. And until they had this kind of equipment, in a lot of cases, they were amputating. So instead of putting your arm or leg back together, it was just, do we amputate above or below the knee or the elbow?
Yeah.
And surgical drills allowed them to piece back together the bones in your arm or leg and get you back in one piece and back on your job. And they were basically taking care of soldiers, but they were also taking care of a lot of civilians. As you've read, civilians have taken the brunt of the Russian attack. Bombs going off in playgrounds and schools throughout the country.
Yeah, and now it's Iranian-made drones.
And now it's Iranian-made drones. Yes.
Wow.
So I delivered the equipment to the hospital there in Kyiv, went over to Cherkasy, close to the front, met with the lead doctor that is coordinating a lot of their efforts. Her name is Ola Palachuk, and I call her Florence Nightingale. It's 24/7 coordinating hospital efforts and getting them the supplies that they need. Went to her hospital and a couple other hospitals in that city near the front. Saw some military folks that were there getting taken care of, and then back to Kyiv, and then back to the western part of the country where I met with a number of Rotary leaders and other leaders from Ukraine. In fact, I was the only American there and spoke to them on behalf of our country, telling them, and I promised them that we were going to back them all the way, and I was going to come back and do what I could to build an effort to continue supporting them.
Yeah.
I
really wonder about that. Yeah, I wonder how were you, like, during war? What kind of preparations did you take, just knowing that anything could happen at any minute? You're ready to go into a safe position in case something was incoming from Russia?
I was in 3 different cities with air raid sirens going off, and at that time, it was hard for them to predict where missiles were going. So, I mean, if a missile was coming in from a Russian ship into Ukraine, they couldn't tell where it was going. So, any place that was vulnerable to missiles had air raid sirens going. So you never really knew whether a missile was going to hit your particular town or your particular building. But they were prepared. Now they've honed that down and gotten a lot more accurate on how they handle the missiles, as you've heard. I mean, in fact, they've now got a lot of defensive equipment that allows them to shoot down the majority of the missiles. The only thing I did was get a tetanus shot before I went. Ukraine is a first world country, and they are technically capable. It's a safe country. Other than the Russian invasion, it's a pretty safe place to go.
Yeah. Beautiful architecture too. I always marvel at that every time I'm seeing live shots from that area.
Yes, tremendous. And the people in the United States they're not aware of how advanced Ukraine is. And they're determined to win this thing. Finishing up my trip last June, I basically finished meeting with the leaders there in Western Ukraine, went back to Romania and met a tractor trailer that was actually had this banner in back of me on the front of the tractor trailer. And we drove that tractor trailer into a rotary warehouse in Uzhhorod, Ukraine, where we offloaded the 37 pallets, 12,000 pounds. And from there, from that warehouse, the shipment was distributed to 14 different hospitals, including 3 at the front. And it was all kinds of, it was medical, it was a surgical drill equipment that I described earlier, as well as catheters, breathing supplies, and a lot of wound care management. Things you don't really think about, but all of things that are used by hospital to take care of somebody injured. I came back from Ukraine in June and began talking to Chris Brand at Fodak that I mentioned earlier, and then created helpingukraine.us, which is a nonprofit with a 501c3 fund status that allows people to make contributions to us that are tax deductible, which is important to a lot of large donors. And then we are very organized in how we handle that money coming in. We worked to build the organization last summer and began receiving funds and buying ongoing medical equipment going over to the hospitals in Ukraine. We've sent a couple shipments since then that are distributed by primarily Rotarians throughout Ukraine. And then in November, we had the blessing to get connected to Ken Ward, who was working with some churches based in Odessa and Moldova to get stoves and blankets to the civilians that were actually there at the front in areas that the Russians left, and when the Russians were pushed out near Kherson, Ukraine. And Ken basically needed support financially so that he could do what he was doing. And we clicked. It was just amazing. He is determined to be there and help the Ukrainian people who are there near the front. And so he is coordinating teams of installers there in the Kherson and Mykolaiv area. Again, this is an area where the Russians had taken and then were pushed out by the Ukrainians about a month and a half ago, leaving behind a lot of houses missing a wall because it got blown off, and a lot of older people who are not going to move from their house. They're going to die or they're going to stay there and live, but they're not going to be a refugee. They're staying there, and they're in many cases without heat and without water. The wells over there have electrical pumps that pump the water out of the ground and then pump it onto houses. So we are setting up generators to run these pumps, and then we are setting up wood burning stoves to keep these people warm, trying to set up a wood burning stove in every neighborhood. Again, these people were on natural gas for the most part, which has totally stopped, and they have electricity, and so they're cold. It's 14 degrees there today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. The worst time, of course, that's when the war started.
Exactly.
When they're vulnerable.
Yes. And Putin's basically doing his best to demoralize them, but they are determined. And I think every missile that hits Ukraine increases their determination. It's like, we're not giving up. We're going to die or we're going to win, but we're not giving up. So Ken is basically distributing thousands of blankets, dozens of generators, and having installers install wood burning stoves. And he's over there now with his team, and they're actively working this forward. Our goal is to expand that effort to try to take care of the people who are in areas where the Russians were in control and then are now on their own without any utilities, and help them as hopefully the Russians are pushed back further.
Yeah, Kherson. I mean, I saw the aftermath there of
Yes.
that war in
Yes.
that area. Wow, just compelling,
Yes.
chilling.
Yes. In fact, Ken basically, Kherson was hit hard last week, and I said, Ken, are you sure you want to go there? And he said, this is what God wants me to do,
Yeah,
and this is where I'm going to be.
yeah, it
And
is. It's a higher
that's where
calling.
he is today.
Gosh, did you ever think, like, when you got into this, like,
No.
half a century ago, did you ever think you'd be involved in doing something like this? You were so local here in the greater Atlanta area.
When I was there giving out the food and meeting with the doctors and the air raid sirens going, I felt like I was in some kind of a movie. I never would have dreamed that I would be there in a war place and be helping like that. And sending Ken off on Wednesday, that feeling came back strong. I mean, he was literally going to the war zone this week, today, to help people, and we're here supporting him every way we can support him. I think about it 24/7. Yesterday, I received a request from a group outside of Kyiv that is trying to get a hospital back on track, where the power system keeps getting bombed. Their electricity is not reliable. They had $20,000 raised for a $25,000 generator to power this hospital, and they needed $5,000 quick. And after talking to them and checking them out, I said, "We'll wire you the $5,000 next week," and that $5,000 is on the way. So I'm honored to be able to help people like that, and to now have the resources from our incredibly generous donors to help them.
Yeah, you're using your experience because you've revitalized places. You're doing
Yes.
it over in Ukraine, and you're perfect
Correct.
fit.
Yes, but it's a much bigger sense of urgency.
Yeah, yeah.
We're actually we're helping people this month that will be dead in 2 months if we don't help them.
Need extra money for college? ISL Education Lending Scholarship Program provides $1,000 for college expenses. Registration is easy and no essay is required. Visit www.iowastudentloan.org/register to learn more. The scholarship is open to Iowa residents who are in high school and college students, as well as parents of those students. Register by November 30th for your chance at one of the 45 awards at www.iowastudentloan.org/register.
Go Ford for your next truck or SUV and find an easier way to buy with Woodhouse Ford today, and experience the convenience of buying with Woodhouse Ford. Lease a 2023 Ford Escape Active for $397 per month for 48 months and 7,500 miles per year. First payment and $299 doc fee due at signing. Security deposit waived. Tax, title, license extra with approved credit. Expires 12/04/2023.
And so there's a strong sense of urgency. Unlike the real estate business that kind of plods along, here, I mean, if we're not effective, people will die.
Oh, true.
That's what keeps me running 24/7 to get them what they need and to keep our team motivated. Not that they need motivation; they're all really psyched to be helping and doing this.
Yeah, all these generators. I was just thinking about this, about the generators. Are they getting fuel in? How are they getting the fuel for these, since natural gases?
Believe it or not, Ukraine produces some fuel. So initially, when I was there in June last year, fuel was a huge problem. And I mean, we before we left for anywhere, we'd have a couple 5-gallon jugs of gas in the back of the van. just to make sure we could get where we needed to go. Um, they don't have electricity to pump fuel out of tanks right now in some places, but they do have that resource, and fuel for generators is available.
That's very good. Very important as well, since these power grids keep getting knocked out. And how is Chernobyl doing these days? Gosh, you heard a little bit about this
Yes,
towards the
the
beginning.
Russians basically invaded Chernobyl and dug in there. And I've read that the Russians that dug in there now, many of them are dying from radiation poisoning because they dug into radioactive soil that's going to radioactive for decades to come, and they just didn't know what they were doing. And with some of the other areas like Zaporizhia, the other big nuclear plant, we hope that the Russians don't mess that up, because it's messing up a nuclear plant like that is centuries worth of damage, not just to the people today, but to future generations.
So you did you had to go by truck every time because the railroad gauges I was reading are a little bit different than what we have in the US.
And that's a good question. Basically, first of all, there's no flights into Ukraine. There's no public flights available, or for shipment or for people. Everything is by truck. Trains in the communist bloc were a different gauge than planes in the West, like the United States and Germany and so forth. So, the train goes up to the border, and then you look at the track on the other side of the border, and it's literally about a foot wider on each side. And I saw it myself. I wish I had taken a picture of it. It just amazing that they don't connect. So the only way you can get things in is by tractor trailer. And there are thousands of tractor trailers every day crossing that border back and forth, bringing supplies in. And they are all kinds of volunteer groups plus regular businesses. One thing that's not known to people and not understood is basically half of Ukraine is still functioning. I mean, the part that's not currently at the war front, they're still producing whatever they were producing, and the farms are still harvesting crops, and all kinds of other activities are still ongoing. I mean, you can go into a restaurant on the western side of the country and buy a nice dinner or a beer.
That's hard to believe. Yeah. So, I mean, the American public, which is not thinking about it, I mean, they're thinking more domestically. A lot of people have to understand that how, it's more modern than you think.
Correct. And it's about 2/3 of Ukraine is functioning relatively normally. Now, I mean, their government is stretched to the limits with manpower and finances. But thanks to the U.S. and other countries around the world, everything keeps moving forward, and we need to keep supporting them. Speaking of functioning, the Rotary clubs in Ukraine are amazing. I met with the presidents of the 65 Rotary clubs last June face to face, and those Rotary clubs are the backbone of a lot of the humanitarian effort coming in. A Rotary club here in Atlanta can raise money and have FODAC organize stuff and ship stuff over, and know that the Rotary folks over there are not going to have any theft or slippage. They're going to get that surgical equipment or those hospital supplies where they need to go. And it's very organized. So Rotary has been a huge help over there and worldwide. When I was in these warehouses, I saw pallets that had come in from Rotary clubs all over the world. And it's been just a huge unified effort, and it's ongoing. And I mean, it'd be nice if the war was over tomorrow, but most of us are ready to just keep going as long as it takes.
Yeah, yeah. We don't see an
So
end in sight, but who knows? It's
I think things will. I think it will start wrapping up this spring or summer.
uh,
I, everything I read and the reports I get are that the Russians are starting to fall apart pretty badly, and the Ukrainians they're as motivated as ever, and they're not giving up.
yeah, there's got to be some type of a solution. It seems like maybe they would be happy if they just kept those areas on the border that they where mainly Russians
Uh,
are anyway right now.
I, I, I've read a lot of history about this. Basically, those areas on the border where Russians are right now, anyway, for the most part, Stalin in the 30s uh, had a mass famine that he basically organized with the intention of wiping out the Ukrainian people and then repopulating the very rich farmland in Ukraine with Russians.
Yeah.
I mean, over the last 80 years, they Russia has continued through all kinds of different things, eliminating Ukrainians and replacing them with Russians. And that includes the Crimea. Okay, the Crimea,
Right.
people say it's largely Russian. Well, it's largely Russian because they either ran out the Ukrainians or they killed the Ukrainians and moved in Russians. And so the Ukrainians recognize that you shouldn't be able to take over land by killing the people that are there and moving in your people. Um, that's the way it was done in history, but it's not the way that things happen now. So the Ukrainians are not going to give up on that land that Russia got in 2014. Their goal is to get the Russians completely out of Ukraine territory.
Yeah, that was just like really they try to slip under the radar and they're slowly trying to take it over. And yeah, if they
Yes.
could fight, that's good.
Yes.
That's really, really good. Wow. Anyway, so you got into this. You went to Emory University. Emory went to
Yes.
Emory.
Emory went to Emory, and then went on to Wharton and got an MBA in finance. But I fell in love with Atlanta. I'm originally from Baltimore,
Oh
and
wow, I didn't know that.
Atlanta is the only
Huh.
place I wanted to be, and I'm glad I'm here. I had no prior connection, but have done pretty well, and really like the mentality here in Atlanta where we welcome everybody and help get people on track. And if you're willing to work and treat people right, you can really go places in Atlanta.
Yeah, yeah, come here. I mean, that's why so many of us have come here because just the
Yes.
opportunities that
Yes. Yeah, and
definitely.
that goes for all kinds of people, not just white guys, but anybody. I mean,
Oh
black,
yeah.
Hispanic, anybody can come here and thrive. All you got to do is work hard and treat people right.
Yeah, that is the absolute truth. That's what makes it so
Yes.
great. Definitely.
Yes. Yes.
Do have a lot of people here. I think probably one of our biggest challenges is water. Have you I remember that the
Yes.
drought in 2007, that was a little scary. Do you think we could face that in the future?
I think that I don't know, the weather patterns that I see show that our area will continue doing well, unlike people on the West Coast or the Midwest. I think we will do okay on water, and I think the governments here are doing a good job trying to conserve water and plan ahead.
Yeah.
So to be snagged like some of the states out west where the reservoirs are going dry.
Yeah, scary what's out there. Some of those lakes, yeah, almost
Yes.
totally dried out. So yeah,
Yes.
that's just something to look at and to plan ahead. And hopefully we, invest more in that infrastructure and reservoirs and things like that.
Yes. Yes.
So hopefully, yeah. Well, I just saw
Yeah.
so many changes here over, 3.5 decades here. And you think, the South just has that stereotype, but
Mhm.
Atlanta's so modern. And I've seen it take off. Yeah, I've been here 3.5 decades. just amazing.
Yes, it is. Good place to be.
Yeah. Can you believe like long ago like a huge deal to get on a train, I believe, to go from Atlanta to Lawrenceville. Wow, that was like
Yes.
I can't even imagine that kind of feeling.
Yep. Agreed.
Gosh, it's
Yes.
definitely come a long way. There's
Come a
no
long
question
way.
about it.
And I mean we've made mistakes over the years. I mean, we should have had a much better transportation system here. And we're now paying the price for not being well organized. But we're trying to catch up.
Order your holiday meal packs today at Hy-Vee and leave the cooking to us. Order traditional meals, small crowd meals, or a la carte meals. You can even customize your holiday meal by choosing from a variety of meats, sides, pies, and more. There's something for everyone with the Hy-Vee holiday meal packs. Order in-store or online at high-v.com. Happy holidays from Hy-Vee.
Yeah, yeah. It's
That's
kind
a
of like
whole
what
nother
happened,
subject.
happened out in Los Angeles, where it's just like, you're a victim of your own success, but
Yes.
as far as moving people around, yeah, that's a huge challenge. I would love to see like MARTA just go beyond. MARTA's the mass transit here, to go beyond Doraville, beyond Jimmy Carter Boulevard, come up your way up 316. That would be a dream, but each track is like what, $2 million or something like that.
Well, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but I'm intimately involved with it.
Oh, good.
There
It's interesting.
there will be an election next year for Gwinnett to join MARTA. It has failed 3 times. It would have passed in 2020 if not for the pandemic. But I anticipate that in 2024, Gwinnett will vote to join MARTA. Then there will be a line from the Doraville MARTA train station out to the OFS site, which is in the center of the Gateway 85 Community Improvement District that I happen to manage. And our plan is for that line to then go north parallel to I-85 to Gwinnett Place Mall and the arena on Sugarloaf Parkway. And then also have a line go from the OFS site along Jimmy Carter Boulevard and Mountain Industrial. Not sure how much you want to get into local stuff like that, but
Yeah.
we will catch up and get tuned in and be able to have Gwinnett connect to the rest of the civilized world.
Yeah. And like we were saying, Gwinnett County is easily 30 minutes north of Atlanta,
Yes.
for those who are not familiar with this area, but it's all connected in. MARTA is the system that is part of Fulton County, where Atlanta is, and DeKalb County. Gwinnett County traditionally has been the outlier and didn't really want any mass transit all these years. I remember all these votes going way, way back, and just getting shot down every time. Now, Atlanta's got even worse traffic. The pandemic's over. We're back to where we were on that. And
Yes.
yeah, we got to make some choices here.
The election in 2020 would have passed with us having transit in Gwinnett, but the pandemic messed us up. If you recall, everything was shut down in the summer of 2020 and going into the fall, and the roads were empty. People weren't going to work. People weren't going out to eat, and so people said, "Well, the roads are wide open. Why do we need to worry about transit?" And so it failed by a hair because people couldn't figure out why we were talking about transit when the roads were wide open.
Yeah.
That'll be different next year.
Yeah. I'm just amazed at how much progress has happened in this county. And I'm in Peachtree Corners, one of the newer cities in this
Yes.
county. Actually,
Yes.
the biggest population wise, I would think. It's got more people than Lawrenceville, but yeah, I've seen tremendous building and change, and what a story it is over here.
Gwinnett has. I moved here in the 80s, and it's just been amazing how fast it's grown, and just and really good people, and that same kind of opportunity that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And that whole mall culture. When I first came here, Gwinnett Place Mall, which was
Yes.
near Lawrenceville, or Duluth, is pretty much just like malls all across the country. So it's just not just Atlanta, but we have to reimagine these things, and
Yes.
that's in dire need of redevelopment.
Yes. And it's being redeveloped. I mentioned that I manage community improvement districts, and there are 35 community improvement districts in Metro Atlanta, 5 of which I started, believe it or not. The Gwinnett Place CID is developing plans right now to rework that entire closed up mall into something that'll be a really vibrant mixed use development, and that's coming pretty quick.
Yeah, and we have so few east-west corridors in the Atlanta metro
Yes.
area. So Pleasant Hill, where the mall has been located all these years, is just a traffic nightmare. So we're trying to figure out ways of getting out of that and hopefully relieving it, starting with that diverging diamond that goes to I-85.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
Diverging diamond is getting well. I mean, I'm not sure. There's diverging diamonds, which is what Jimmy Carter and Pleasant Hill used to cross 85, and the one that is Jimmy Carter's we're working to replace that with something with much more capacity. The diverging diamond was a great improvement, but even now that is way over capacity.
Yeah, I could tell. Yeah, because when you get to the intersection, it's like, wait a minute, now I'm gonna get stuck here.
Yes.
A bunch of cars
Yep.
coming off the freeway. It's like I can't get out of the way. It's just
Yes.
yeah, it needs to be updated. It's so many people
Yes.
coming here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Agreed.
definitely. Well, just
Yes.
love coming down to downtown Lawrenceville. Everybody try to come and visit. Speaking for the CVB over there.
Yes.
There's a theater building. It's beautiful. Gosh, this theater where a lot of productions are being staged.
Yes.
It's just gorgeous.
The Aurora Theater. I brought the Aurora Theater in 2004, and the city of Lawrenceville was a great partner on that. And then recently, the Aurora Theater merged or grew into the Lawrenceville Arts Center with a $35 million new facility, and Janet and I were actually there New Year's Eve, and they are really going strong. Really great group of people there, and the city is incredibly supportive. It's a win-win for everybody.
Mm,
Yes.
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, it's been fantastic speaking with you. I first met you at one of those Tom Houck gatherings. For those who don't know, Tom Houck was Martin Luther King Jr.'s driver back in the
Yes.
60s. He came from Boston.
Yeah.
And Tom
Yep.
had a radio show, I believe, for a little while.
Yes. Yes.
WGST.
Yes. He never slows down, and is a really great spirit in Atlanta.
Yeah. He used to be on
The last time I was with John Lewis was at Tom Houck's birthday party probably 5 years ago.
Yeah, I was at that. Yeah. It
Yes.
was nice to see John Lewis one last time. He
Yes.
was really, really nice. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, John Lewis, another legend. So many here.
Yes,
And
that's for sure.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all your work in Ukraine. I kind of have ties there. My grandfather came from a little village, probably closer to Belarus. I believe it's called Kupel. And
Okay.
I was reading up on that. And
Wow.
that professor from Boston, Noam Chomsky, I think his father came from that village.
I did not know that.
Yeah, small
Okay.
world.
Small world. Now, have you been back there? Have you ever been there?
No. I know people who have. I've been in the news business for almost 35 years now.
Okay.
I know people who have spent time covering the war, going back and forth. So know of people who've described to me what's going on there. Yeah, it's I do a lot of work here in Atlanta, video wise, with that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you need to be staying on top of it, and
Absolutely.
my goal is to help them build a tourism industry when this war is over. It's a beautiful country with great people. They've got good infrastructure. I mean, a quarter of it's gotten bombed pretty bad, but I think it'll come back pretty strong. And I think people will want to go see where the war was and the results of the war, but then also see a country recovering from the war. Just like Germany and Japan recovered with the Marshall Plan.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's going to happen with Ukraine, hopefully soon.
Yes, it's a great idea too.
Yep.
To start a tourism industry once everything comes back. And
Yes.
yeah, we think
Yes.
about them all the time, and it's important for Americans and the rest of the world to really understand that. And I caught that speech in Congress when President Zelensky came.
Oh my gosh! Without him, they would have fallen apart fast.
Yeah,
everybody expected them to fall apart fast. But he really, the spirit there is so strong, and they're so unified, and it's like, we will do whatever it takes. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And they're all, men and women and children, they're all on the same page. And I wish we were like that.
Yeah. Very, very rough right now. And
Yes.
By the time I post this, I guess hopefully we'll have some type of a speaker in Washington, and things will look a little bit better and maybe a little bit more unified. You could only be an optimist, right?
Wouldn't it be nice if people actually work together there?
Yeah. There are some, and I'm pretty optimistic people will start reaching across the aisle a little bit more, especially in all of our state houses. And hopefully, this divisiveness will fade pretty quick.
Agreed.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe I'll see you at a future Tomahawk gathering.
Yes.
Or something like that.
I enjoyed that. Yes. Excellent. Good. Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, and best wishes in all of your endeavors.
Well, likewise. Sing out if I can do anything for you on any front. Thank
you so much. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The holidays start here at Baker's, with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.